Marketing Your Private Practice is a podcast where you'll learn easy to implement tips and strategies to grow your business without spending all day online. I'm your host, Kathy Colaiacovo, and I teach practitioners the Thrive marketing method to create simple and streamlined plans by focusing on long-term strategies, not just social media. Discover ways to spend less time on your marketing, attract more clients, and build the financial freedom that comes with a thriving practice. One where you have time left in your day for the people and things that matter to you. Hey, private practice heroes, it's Kathy C. with the Marketing Your Private Practice podcast. And today we're doing one of our free marketing reviews with Ashley Bonkofsky of Better Learning Therapies in Utah. Ashley is a speech-language pathologist, feeding therapist, and teletherapist. And today she's looking for some guidance on her messaging and the website for the group practice that she's part of. So welcome, Ashley. I'm really happy to have you here.
Thank you so much, Kathy. I'm excited to be here.
Excellent. Well, and I love the marketing reviews we do because I find it's a really great way. Not only do I get to know different people from all over the world, but it gives me some really good ideas for other inspiration for my own content and things I can teach people like you as well. Now, before we dive in, I do want to remind everybody listening in that these reviews are free and they're open to everyone. They're a way for me to be able to get you in my recording studio. It is a podcast episode that we put out there, but I talk on video. Ashley and I are on video now, but the video's not going anywhere. It's just so she and I can, communicate and get at ease with each other as we go through this. And the best part is we're going to walk through and work through a roadblock that might be stopping you from growing your practice or your business. Has something to do with your marketing, maybe your website, your messaging, whatever it is, I'm here to help. So you are definitely invited, if you're listening in, to apply for your own free marketing review at pepperitmarketing.com/reviews. And I'll put a link to that in the show notes. So, Ashley, we're here today. You wanted to talk about some of your messaging. So before we get started, I just want to say welcome. And I'm going to give you an opportunity to just let the audience and let us know a little bit about you and the practice, the types of clients that you help, what services you offer, and, what is that transformation that you provide for your clients?
Thank you so much. So Better Learning Therapies is located in northern Utah near Hill Air Force Base. And we are a primarily pediatric clinic offering speech language, feeding, and occupational therapies at this time. We have in-person services at our Layton-based clinic in Utah. And then we also provide teletherapy services in the state of Utah as well as Alaska. So we are a little bit all over the world. We are a 40% military spouse business, which we're very proud of. And I myself am an active duty spouse. We are currently stationed in the UK. So because of my amazing team, I am able to be here overseas with my husband, and the clinic is thriving back stateside. The thing that we hope that we do with our clients is that we provide therapy on their level. We know that each person's coming into our clinic in a different part of their journey, and we like to meet them where they are and really become part of their team, providing the services that are most important to them at the time we get to be with them. And so our big marketing hurdle at this time is because we are interdisciplinary, offering multiple services, we sometimes have difficulty streamlining a marketing message for our intended audience. We do serve some families with children with therapy needs for multiples of our services. So maybe they have a child in speech therapy and feeding therapy, or a child in feeding therapy and occupational therapy. We also serve families that have multiple children with our therapy services. So we have a multifaceted company, and we're trying to find a streamlined marketing message that hits the audience so that they can find us so that we can be of service.
Okay, great. And thanks for sharing that. I didn't actually know you were calling in from the UK.
Oh,
so
yeah.
That's pretty cool. So we're not as far apart as we think.
Oh, no?
I'm on the other side of the Atlantic Ocean in Nova Scotia.
There you are.
So we'll just wave to each other
there it is.
From the ocean. There we go. All right. Well, that's really good. And that gave me some background that I didn't really have from your application too. So, because you did give me some information, I know you were concerned about the generic marketing, and that can be tough. I've had a lot of people, I have clients that, they work with individual people, but then they train clinicians as well. So that can become a challenge. And it is one of the hardest roadblocks to overcome, is having that message out there so that you don't feel like you're putting out 1,000 different types of messages, but you're still reaching the type of people that you can help and that you want to serve. So one thing that I want to see if we can narrow down with you, because messaging is key. And you actually, in your intro just now, told me quite a few things more about the practice than I can find on your homepage of the website. Okay. So for those listening in, the website for Ashley's company is betterlearningtherapies.com. So if you want to take a look at that to follow along with the advice that I'm going to give her and what we're talking about, you're more than welcome to do that. So that was one of my first things that I had as a question for you, Ashley, was when I go to the website, it's kind of like therapy on your level. We talk about therapy. You talk about partner with parents, provide therapy. But nowhere on your homepage can I find the word pediatric.
Oh, what a massive oversight. Oh.
And it's common. Like, honestly, you're in the weeds with your business, you're doing stuff. So it is very common for me to notice something like that different than the business or the practice owner. And so that is something that I took right away. I could actually find it. You have a menu bar kind of on the left side, and it was down in there that you say you offer it to children and their families. But the word pediatric is nowhere on the homepage. I've just sort of done a little search for it. So, and that becomes really important because when you just introduced yourself to me, you were very clear that you offer pediatric therapy and services. So that is something that you want to make sure that you're factoring into your messaging. Okay. And you all may know you work with kids and you may know you do the pediatric services, but that also means then when you create a post for Facebook or you create a post for Instagram or you're putting content out there, you're doing your newsletter or a blog, one of the things I want you to be thinking about is the word pediatric therapy, because that's a keyword for you. If people are looking, or children's therapy, because you also have to think in, the shoes of your patients, your clients. And in your case, it's twofold. You're working with the kids, but the parents are paying you, or the parents are getting the insurance that pays you.
Right. So the client is the child, but our stakeholder is the parent.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. So that's something also that you have to watch out for in how you put your information out there. You've got to make sure that it speaks to the parent who is looking for help for their child. So one of the things that you always want to be doing is think like them, use their words. And one thing that I'm always encouraging folks in my Thrive Marketing Academy to do is keep a document that I call, very aptly named, Words They Say. It's the Words They Say document. And it's something I encourage any business owner that does consults or works with clients service-based to do, because what I want you to do is have a document that you save. And when you're having a discovery call, a consult, or talking to people for the first time, if it's a paid service, you're always asking them, like I asked you, what are some of the reasons you wanted a marketing review? Well, you're going to ask them, why are you here? Not why are you here? Okay, that sounds really bizarre the way I said it. But you're going to ask them why they sought you out, what they're looking for, what they need. And they're going to say things that aren't going to be clinical, that aren't going to be words that all of you trained therapists are going to use probably. They may use some of them, but for the most part, they're going to say words probably just a little different than you all might. And those are important words because those are words they're going to use when they go to Google and search for, children's therapist near me, feeding therapy. They're going to be using words that you may not always use. I'm not sure how many parents would actually Google find a pediatric therapist, right? So they'll find a therapist for my child, therapist that works with children. fellow clinicians would probably use it. And when they know about it, they're going to know what the word pediatric therapy is, but they're probably not originally going to use that. Some of them might, probably the more in the know. Maybe they've been there before, they know what they're looking for, worked with somebody like you before. So this lesson on words they say and keywords and having some of that information in your content on your website, that spreads to everything. So if you have a page, because I know you have several pages for your different services. So you have pages for sounds. Let me look here. Okay, I can't say half these words. Dyslexia, orofacial myofunctional therapy, occupational therapy, feeding. So you've got words here, like even in your menu, feeding, is it therapy? Feeding, like how did the parents word it? So that's where you want to make sure that you're thinking on their level with some of the content you put in your messaging. And that's even something you would carry over to a blog that you would write or a newsletter that you put together or a social media post. And in your case, when I look at your homepage, so would you say you categorize your therapy in 3 top categories? The feeding, the occupation,
yes,
the
those
speech?
are the main services that we offer. And so I think of those as bigger umbrellas with
Right.
specialized techniques and skills and strategies underneath those bigger umbrellas.
Right. Okay. So one thing when I teach people how to create content for marketing, I always say create a bucket of topics, right? Create your main category at the top and then get subtopics for each one. So that's exactly what you've got here. Feeding, therapy, occupational therapy, speech language therapy. Now, your buttons say feeding, occupational, and speech language. So I can go to the restaurant and feed myself. So therapy is also a keyword for you.
Yes.
So part of what you want to have even on those buttons is therapy. Okay. So don't cut things off because you're assuming that everybody would know what you all know because you have that deep knowledge and you have the deeper level of information. Okay. So part of what you want to do to get your message so that you can focus on, maybe you want to put something out specifically to occupational therapy for children or speech language therapy for children or feeding therapy for families with kids. So those are different things. So part of what you can do and you want to have in place is you want to think about if you're talking about your marketing to people and you want to send them somewhere to get more information, that may be where you want to, match the content with the specific page you would send them to. So if you're going to put a post on Facebook, so here's an example. You've got a post where you've added Sharia. I don't know if I said her name right.
You did, yes.
Okay, awesome. So she is the front desk assistant. And I think you have a team page.
We do.
So one of the things that you want to do with some of your content is always make sure you're bringing people back to your website too, right? So as an example, on this Facebook post, you're talking about Sharia. She's the new desk assistant. I would have add a link to your team page there. You've got a picture of her, you got a hello and a welcome. But if you're going to share that and the image is great, you've got your logo on there, that's awesome. You've got her name. But I would have thrown a link in there to send them back to your team page, which then gives them a way to go to the page and look at, who else is there? And then it might trigger them. So some of your messages are going to be really top level like this, where you would send them to a set place on your website, like the team page. But you give them the opportunity to then explore the website because they've come to that page. Okay. So here we have back in mid-August. So you have something about the new school year. You've got this awesome picture of a kid who's not happy to go back to school. And then I think what you're probably doing is sending them, I'm going to click on here, to a blog post, which is great. So that's perfect the way that you've done that. You've given the information. It was very clear, like when you're doing this, you're talking about the different therapies. That's kind of a general one. So that's where I would say, like, think about it in, you're talking overall therapy for kids there. But if you had something specific that was going to be about occupational or speech language, then that's where you want to use some of those words in it. And then, of course, throw in hashtags, which I've seen you using in some of your content, which is great. But that's where you would then sort of throw some of the specific ones in. If you're talking about something to do with occupational therapy, use some hashtags that fit with that. Use some words and content that fit with it as well. So part of your job when you create your content to make sure that you're speaking to the right people is to make sure you highlight, if you're giving them a little info on speech language specific, occupational specific, feeding therapy specific, that you make sure that they can see that. So it could be something where the image that you put and create to go with that blog has the word occupational therapy right in it, kind of thing. Okay. So that helps people identify. And then if you follow along with what you're doing, I mean, I love your logo. You get it on there and you put it in bright and bold, and it's got your tagline with it on these images. So those are great. And that's what you can sometimes do. So this one in particular just said therapy tips for parents.
Mm-hmm.
So if you were going to specifically have a feeding therapy kind of tip or something, or occupational, make sure on the image that you put that there. If somebody is looking for that kind of help or looking out for that information, having that bright and bold helps them discern, it's not just therapy, because they could be thinking therapy of any kind, but you're talking feeding therapy tips for parents. Okay. So part of your messaging is really thinking and understanding what those main categories are, which are often very similar to what I would say keywords that you want to be recognized for and found for, which then also become hashtags in the content as well. So they all kind of fit together. Does that make sense on how you could fit that into what you're doing with your messaging now?
Yes, it very much does. What we started with on that first page was kind of a story brand approach, where we were trying to get into the shoes of the parent and find that need, because we recognize that difference, as we mentioned already, between the client being the child and the stakeholder being the parent. So that's where we went with it. But you've already given me so much gold. I feel like I could spend the rest of this evening making updates to the website and be so happy about it.
Yeah. And it's funny you mentioned StoryBrand. I love Donald Miller's book.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. I've taken his training. And for those listening in, what Ashley's referring to is there's a book out there called StoryBrand by Donald Miller. And I will put a link to it in the show notes. And it is awesome because it takes you through a framework of how you can really get down into what is your client's problem? What is and you really look at it from a threefold perspective, right?
Mm-hmm.
Their main problem, what they're really feeling inside, and like what it really means to them overall in their life. And you have to look at yourself as the guide that's going to help them get to that place where they're trying to go. So, and I can see you've done some of that in here. Part of what you're missing is some of those keywords that people are going to recognize for what you're trying to tell people you do and how you help. And the other thing about that is those keywords are not just for people that visit your website. Those keywords are also for the search engines, because we want the search engines knowing that this website, Better Learning Therapies, is all about pediatric therapy, therapy for children, feeding therapy, occupational therapy. You want to have all of those words there. So that's where, we do a whole module and training on SEO and keywords and how to go into your website and make sure. One of the things that's important for everybody is every page on your website that's, visible, especially your main pages, home, services, about, contact. Those are big pages. Mm-hmm. They should all be optimized for SEO. So they should have a title and they should have a description that are purposely and thoughtfully put together so that the search engines know exactly what those pages are about as well. So I do think you've got some of that story brand in here, but you're just missing some of the technical parts of getting some of those main keywords in there. Because marketing isn't always about what you put out on social media. It's also about what you have on the website that people can read and find, but that the search engines can find as well. Because that's the goal ultimately. Online marketing is a really symbiotic, like a circular relationship between your website, the content you put on your website, and the search engines. And you constantly want all of them to be going around and connecting and knowing that one another are there. So I think you've got a really good start on this here, but there's a few things that I would say you want to really optimize a little bit better. you've got your information at the top. So where you have your kind of like your one-liner there, get ready to experience therapy on your level. I think you could probably just based on what you were telling me here, I think we could improve that a little bit because the therapy on your level, the thing that you're missing from this is who it's for
Hmm.
in that statement, right? Because really it is therapy for kids and working with their families. So I would encourage you to try and optimize that particular statement so that you can make it clear who it's for. Because right now it could be therapy for me, right?
Right.
So that's one of the things that I would probably say to you is a bit of an action step is look at that, get ready to experience therapy on your level and figure out how you can work some of the children's therapy. You know, well, I could brainstorm a couple things here with you right now. We could look at, something like, and this is not going to be final at all. We'll just kind of throw some things out. But I'm thinking it's almost what you have a little bit on the bottom is partnering with parents and providing children's therapy on your level. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yes.
getting in there a little bit with that line you've got there and working it around a little bit more so that it's just more effective and clear to people. This is children's therapy that you offer.
Hmm.
You partner with the parents. You may not need that in that part of it, but I think somehow, the children's therapy needs to be into that big one-liner you've got at the top.
Yeah, I agree. I think
Yeah,
when you type into Google about like therapy, going back to a words they say document, I think they would say therapy for kids. I think that's
yeah,
mostly what would come up
yeah,
in a Google search at least. So, yeah, we can definitely move some of those descriptive words around to
yeah,
make it, like you said, our tenets are education, treatment, and opportunity. And we feel like those are also a cyclical relationship when they're done well and
right.
right. And so I very much appreciated your visual description there of how the search engines and the website and the content work together. So that
Right.
resonated.
Oh, good,
Yeah.
good. Awesome. Yeah. So, and I think like some of your images on there are good. You've got some stuff in there. The feeding, the occupational, those buttons, I would probably add therapy in there
Okay.
somehow onto that. And then you've got information about your practice. So you're putting in words like you offer teletherapy
Hmm.
in Utah, Alaska, Kansas. Those are good. That's keywords as well. But it's also selected services via teletherapy. So again, you're missing the therapy for children, therapy for kids is part of that. You want to get that in there because those words and phrases you want to have a couple times at least
Okay.
on each page. Okay. The other thing that I did want to recommend to you, just a little bit of a tip on optimizing what you've got out there and what you've got on your website and what you've got in there is there's a paragraph that you've got in your menu box. And that says Better Learning Therapies provides speech, language, feeding, physical, and occupational therapy to children and their families. We want to partner with you on the journey from diagnosis to progress. You're not alone. That sentence is kind of hidden there in the side on the menu.
Mm,
And I would probably try to find a way to put that in your homepage because that makes it very clear what you offer, right? And then you could leave it there too, but I would encourage you to take it out and put it into your main message as well.
okay.
Because you're following that path, which is the story brand path. You have the one liner, you get into their problem, you sort of take them on a journey, how you can help them, what life is going to be like, and reach out and book a call. So you've got a lot of that in there really well. It's just that key message that we really want to have here of who you're helping and how you help. That part of it is missing, I feel, really from your homepage.
That is such fabulous feedback. Yeah.
Oh, I'm glad.
Yes.
I'm
Thank you.
glad. And I do want to just sort of make a comment too. Your team page. So that's the page, if I go to your About Us
Hmm.
page, to maybe make this, editing of your information a little bit easier. Your team page actually had the sentence that I really understood what you offered. Better Learning Therapies is a thriving pediatric therapy clinic. So there's that word that I was looking for, right? That's the word, we have evidence-based services, fun-friendly environment, team of therapists, highly qualified, family-centered care, children receive individualized attention. All of that is really awesome information. And you've got it on the team page, which is good info to have there.
Mm-hmm.
But typically people aren't going to come to your team page. You always think of your website as a journey, right? So on the home page, you could actually have some of that content there because it tells you what you do as well. So I think as you do this and to improve your messaging, look at those words there because those words to me were a lot more clear than what you had on the homepage.
Okay.
And I know you don't want to get a ton of words on the homepage because you don't have a ton, and I get that. But some of how you've got this message here on the team page would really hit home to people because you've got, 10 seconds or less when somebody comes to that homepage. So you got to make it really clear. So even improving your, get ready to experience therapy on your level. You've got therapy on your level in the logo.
Right.
It's all on every page. So think about how could you improve that one-liner to hit home better. And some of the words I think you have on your team page would help you do that.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fabulous.
All right. And I know I had a little other bonus tip for you.
Thanks.
Your Instagram page. So on your Instagram page, two quick tips.
Sure.
And I usually end up telling people these two almost all the time. So you're not alone here. Okay. One, your contact page. Your contact page is important on your website. So on your website, it's your get in touch page. On that page, you actually don't have the name of the company in content on the page. So I always tell people you should have your company name there, the services that you offer, and then you've got a form, which is great. You don't have a live link of an email, which I never like to see. And then you have some links to value statement, frequently asked questions. That's all great. But one thing that you want to add up at the top is also just put your name in text, like Better Learning Therapies, therapy for children and families in, you can put the states that you work in as well. Those are keywords too. So put some of that there just to help have that added information on there. Okay. And I have, episode 9 of the podcast tells you how to optimize your contact page.
Okay.
So I'll put a link to that in the show notes for you. Well, I'll send it to you, Ashley.
Thank you.
For anybody listening, they can get it in the show notes. And then I did want to talk to you about your website or your Instagram and by the way, your Instagram has a little bio that's very clear too. Partnering with busy families to help children with therapy needs to live their fullest life. So you've got a lot of these words out there. It's just, let's get them where they matter a lot more, which is also on the homepage.
Right.
Okay. So Linktree. So here's my deal with Linktree. And they probably don't like to hear me talk about this ever online because I tell people not to use their services. And here's why. I get that it's easy to do, but most business owners who manage their own website or have someone can make a web page that has a bunch of buttons that link to other pages on their web page. That's all you're doing on Linktree is you send people off of Instagram to their website where they get good traffic, somebody else's website. Exactly. And then they come back. And there's a little bit of out of date stuff on there, like some April events and stuff. So when you have these pages, everybody listening, it is important that you update them on a regular basis too. Okay. But for you, if you guys could manage to make a page like that, some people call it like the hello page. Mine is /Kathy C. So if you want to see an example, you go to pepperatmarketing.com/Kathy C.
Okay.
It's Kathy with a K, last name C. So that will give you some samples. I have a podcast, episode 18, talks all about it as well. And it has a PDF that gives you some samples of what to do too. But I would encourage you to make that change as well, because all you're doing is exactly what you said a second ago. You're sending the traffic elsewhere.
Yeah.
And it's much better for you to send it to your website. They would look at that page, then they're going to click and go to another page on your website. And that means they're staying longer on your website, which is something that is really helpful for search engine visibility too. So I would make sure that you take a look at that and see if you can adjust that as well and get a page up that really goes to your own. And if it's hard to keep them up to date, because I know a lot of people want to put tons of links on and all sorts, but if you're not keeping it up to date, like I checked yours and there was an April event people could sign up for. That makes people think sometimes, oh, this is out of date. Maybe everything is out of date. And you never want to give that impression. Okay.
Right.
So I think for you, some action steps that we're looking at here is really get clear on that main message and that one-liner. Who is it you're helping? How do you help them? What's that transformation? And get that in there. Okay. Look at how you can take some of those keywords, some of those main words and services that you offer and put it specifically into what you have in your website content, but also in your social media content too. And when you do that, that will make it a little clearer to the people seeing it, but also to the search engines like Google, so that they will send people to you to see the information too, which is what we want.
Exactly
right?
that.
You want to get traffic that you send there, but you also want to get traffic from strangers too. That's important. So that's probably what I would recommend to you there. Then optimize the contact page, optimize your LinkedIn bio link and change that if you can. And I think that will get you going. And with that, keep that words they say document, because that can give you real golden nuggets of stuff that you can use in your marketing. And I often hear that's where I think there was somebody about a month ago in the Thrive Marketing Academy. She came back and she said, I put this newsletter out and I use that line from the words they say. And she had somebody reach out to her to book a consult.
Wow.
So, because they said it sounded exactly like me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing. If one of your clients says one of those words, other people are probably thinking it too.
Exactly.
And if they see that you know exactly what their problem is, they're going to know that you can help them. And that's what's important. So how does that feel? It
feels very doable. I'm quite excited, honestly. I think for those of us who aren't marketing savvy, you hear the lingo tossed about and you think, oh, well, there's people doing this as full-time work. How are we going to, be able to do that on our own as a small business? And so I'm very pleased to know that these are some simple but very impactful changes that we can make overnight to optimize our website and hopefully get our message and our services out to those that need it most.
Yeah. Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, I always like to hear that it's easy and doable, because that's my plan. And a lot of folks think that, optimizing your marketing and getting clear on everything can mean, tons of you got to do training and you got to get this expert and that expert. A lot of times, honestly, if you can just get in the shoes of your customer, your ideal client, that's sometimes the best content you can put out there for your marketing than anything else, really and truly.
And we have the best clients. They are always open to sharing their experiences with those who might need it. We mentioned that we're very near the Air Force Base and we work with a lot of families that move with military service. So it's nice to know that we've got people who are open to giving us that kind of feedback as well. So we'll definitely utilize them.
No, that's always awesome. And I have to say that as a military brat myself, I totally get that.
Yeah.
10 schools from grade kindergarten to 12.
It's a reality for a lot of our families, for sure.
It is. It is. So, and I think it's awesome that you're working, virtually and remotely. I know in my previous industry as a virtual assistant, there's a lot of military spouses that were working as virtual assistants for that very reason, because you could work virtually and travel with the family as needed and keep a business going.
Yes,
so
exactly.
really cool.
It's wonderful what technology has done for us all.
It has changed the world a lot. Well, thanks again, Ashley, for being part of the podcast and opening up your marketing struggles, because I know one of the best things and best ways that people can learn is by listening to others and hearing what's going on with them. So thank you really for doing this. I know a lot of people wonder, oh, I don't want to do that free thing with Kathy because I have to go on her podcast. But number one, I always say it's free and you'll learn something and you'll get some lessons to take back, hopefully to help you grow your practice or your business. But also it's free marketing for you, because I'm going to shout out to the world who you are as I promote the podcast episode. So that gets your name out there in front of others as well.
Those perks aside, anybody who's curious about doing it, it was really a very simple process. Kathy is a wonderful resource and she's so generous to offer this. So don't pass up that opportunity.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that. And I did not pay Ashley to say that, everybody. But you can apply for your own free review anytime. I'll have a link to that in the show notes. And before we sign off here, Ashley, why don't you share with our listeners how they can connect with Better Learning Therapies and you and the other practitioners that you work with?
Oh, I'd love to. So we are Better Learning Therapies. You can find us online at www.betterlearningtherapies.com. Our phone number is 801-217-3390. We are on Instagram at Better Learning Therapies. We have Facebook as well, and we would love to be part of your journey, whether that's education, quality treatment, or just a better opportunity for you and your family.
With therapy for children.
That's it.
And kids. Awesome. Thanks again, Ashley. And I will put Ashley's contact info in the show notes for anybody listening. And this is Kathy C. saying thanks for tuning in to us today. And remember, to thrive in practice will mean getting clearer on your messaging, your services, and your offer, and being able to share with others that one-line offer statement that lets people know exactly who you help, how you help them, and what changes their life will experience when they work with you. I'll see you next time. You can find all of our show notes and resources mentioned at marketingyourprivatepractice.com. Be sure to connect with me on Instagram at pepperitmarketing and say hi. I'd love to hear any feedback you have, and make sure to rate and review the podcast and hit subscribe on your favorite player so you don't miss any future episodes.